So welcome everyone. We are back with yet another episode of our podcast, and today we have with us Chaitanya Wadekar. He works at onlinesales.ai. So our today's main subject is the gap between the industry and what we learn in colleges. Okay, so first of all, thank you Chaitanya for giving us your time.
Okay, no problem. Happy to help.
Okay.
Happy to discuss.
Okay. So शुरुआत पहले यहीं से करते हैं. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, what you do.
Okay, so basically, first of all, my name is Chaitanya Wadekar. Sorry.
आगे सर का थोड़ा सा आगे. Your head is getting cut off.
आगे सर को. Okay. एक.
लीड थोड़ी ऐसे करना.
ठीक है.
हाँ.
Okay. So yeah. So thanks Ganesh. Thanks for the invitation. Happy to have a pleasurous conversation. So my name is Chaitanya Wadekar, and basically I work in onlinesales.ai, which is a startup in digital marketing and advertisement sector. So that's where basically my responsibility right now. So it keeps on changing ideally as a startup, as a basically startup. When you join, it's very rare that after a time you basically do a certain job only for a certain time, right? It keeps on changing. So yeah, right now I'm basically heading one of the product as a product manager, so which is hyper local product from online sales. Yeah.
Okay, so your company's name is Online Sales, right? So can you just explain us what actually your company do?
Okay, so basically, so we have two products right now. It's a SaaS company. We have two products right now. One is hyperlocal and one is monetize. Just giving you a brief background about both the products. So let's start with hyperlocal, right? So hyperlocal, what we do is, so if you think about today's day and age, right, everything is getting digital. Everyone wants to be digital, right? And there are few players yet who are actually running traditional businesses, right? For example, let's say your insurance agent, right? Insurance agent, uh, basically the only way insurance agent connect to you is basically when you know it via relatives, via friends or something like that, right? And from that, basically word of mouth, and by reaching you through the contacts, they will reach out to you and maybe sell a couple of insurance policies, right? But let's say if you're really interested in insurance, and there is maybe an insurance agent, let's say in in your block as well, right? You won't be able to connect. You won't be able to basically know that, or he may be not able to know that you are interested in buying insurance, right? And hence, basically, digital presence matters a lot. So what we do is basically we deal with players which are aggregators, right? Let's say, so we like did a successful pilot last year with one of the biggest e-com insurance company, where we onboarded, let's say they're all insurance agents from one of the city. I think it was Mumbai, and basically provided them a platform where actually they can just come to the platform and add their budgets, right? For example, let's say if I can come to the platform and say, if I'm an insurance agent, like my daily budget is 200 rupees, which I want to spend to acquire more leads. And then what we do is we use that money, we take that money and actually start doing advertisements on Google, Facebook, various other channels, right? And generate leads for that insurance agent. So even if he doesn't know you, he will get to know that, okay, Ganesh is now interested in buying insurance, and that particular lead is basically passed on to him with all your details, because on Facebook, Google, you'll be filling up your details, right? Email address, phone number, or whatever, right? So you pass on that information to, let's say, that insurance agent, and then basically you guys can connect and he can sell you the policy. Yeah, so that is one of the example, right? That is about insurance. Let's say we are dealing with one of the biggest car makers in India, right? Let's say Hyundai India. We are basically, it's they are our clients, and we have given this product platform to them for use, right? So consider Hyundai India has around 600, 700 outlets spread across India, right? It may be tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. And there the same problem exists again. So for example, right now the only source of lead generation that the outlets have when someone walk in into the outlet, right? And there might be few very advanced outlets or dealerships as well in, let's say, tier 1 cities, who might be doing something around digital advertising. But most of them, let's say 90-95%, were not doing digital advertising and marketing. So we have provided them with a platform where again they can start using the platform, their outlets and dealerships, and let us know about their let's say a daily budget, monthly budget, and we'll start generating leads for them. The leads is basically passed on to them. For example, if I show you, so there is a Hyundai showroom near our office, right? I think you live in a vicinity there as well, right? So for example, if he is doing advertisement and let's say we figure out, let's say Ganesh is interested in buying Hyundai car, we'll start showing you the advertisement maybe on Facebook, or even if you search on Google, let's say Hyundai Creta, and we'll basically target you there, because you are interested, right, in buying that lead. So basically you will give us your detail, we'll pass on that detail to outlets. And what we also do is basically to provide this instant gratification, right? As soon as you fill up the lead, we actually connect your call with the dealership, and you guys can actually have a chat and basically figure out which car, which model, which version are you interested in. Yeah, so basically our aim is to make everybody connect this offline and online world, right? So that's our aim. So we are actually right now huge into auto, but we are also expanding into BFSI, insurance, retail. So we are doing few success, we have started doing pilots with few of the biggest retail companies as well. Hopefully, I can't take their name, but hopefully after pilot, yeah.
So like
Yeah, so
basically,
this is about, sorry, yeah. So this is about hyperlocal as a product. Just giving you brief background about the monetized product as well. So basically, everyone, I think all of us might be doing the shopping on, let's say, Google, and let's say the previously how it used to work is you search on Google, Google will show you a few links of the products, and then you basically visit the let's say Amazon or Flipkart, right? But right now this platforms are getting so stronger day by day. No one is actually using Google for, let's say, e-commerce shopping. At least you directly go to Amazon and basically type whatever product you want, right? And for example, let's say if you want Nike shoes, you might search for shoes. And what Amazon does is, Amazon, Flipkart, they show you like first 5 6 products or 10 products will be always advertisements, right? Very relevant for your history, very relevant for the search or category you are looking for, right? um, and it takes a very huge time and let's say uh, time and money to invest or to create this kind of platform, right? Which Amazon and Flipkart definitely can do because they have kind of unlimited cash flow and a huge tech bandwidth as well. But let's say, for example, there are few small marketplaces which actually want to focus on their core business rather than investing, let's say, millions and billions on this kind of technology. So that's where online sales ka monetized platform come into picture. Basically, we provide white labeled platform to, let's say, Paytm Mall was one of our clients, right? Right now, purple.com, which is used into, let's say, cosmetics and everything. So those use, let's say, online sales platform to monetize their sellers product and show advertisements on their websites. So we are also working with Tata Click, Tata 1mg. Not only in India, basically we are huge we have huge presence in Southeast Asia, Middle East, also in Africa, Nigeria, South Africa. Yeah, we are also integrating with one of the e-commerce marketplace from Europe, which is from Spain. And I think most probably will be expanding into US as well. And that's why basically we are hiring aggressively. So if any of you are interested, I think you can connect me on LinkedIn or something. We are hiring across board, by the way. So software developers, marketing, sales, you name it, customer success, everything. Yeah.
So
Back to you, Ganesh.
yeah, so basically you are a company which helps people to advertise online, right? And you have your own platform, right?
Yeah. So we are basically a SaaS platform, which basically helps out players out there, right, to basically focus on their own business, and let us take care of the other things like generating leads from online digital presence, or maybe online ad serving and all those things, so that they can focus on their core business, and we can take these complexities out of their hand, and maybe they can expand well.
So you basically you are a product based company, you have your own product, right? So can you just take us like how big your company is, like how many people work there?
Yeah, so right now, basically, we are about 55, 60 or people, where the huge bandwidth goes into tech, around 25 to 30 people. We are working on technology. Rest of them are basically client success, sales, marketing, all those things.
So since
And
you
the plan is to basically hire 15, 20 more developers, like few sales. So in, let's say, by end 2022 will be around almost like 75 people team.
So since you said that you are hiring aggressively, so let's come to
Hmm.
our point itself, the today's discussion topic. So
Right.
so what roles are you hiring for in just tech? Keep others aside, just in tech.
So basically in tech, basically we are hiring right now on backend engineers. So backend software developers, right, who are more into Java, Python, Node.js, maybe who has a strong problem solving skills, knows algorithms, and are able to solve actually real life business problems. So we are looking out for those kind of people, and I think experience and everything is kind of not matter, and as long as they are willing to work with a startup, um, and has this kind of passion in these technologies, we are open to basically hire anyone right now. Because personally, I don't think experience should be a criteria, because things basically candidates can learn in couple of months or something like that. Uh, but giving opportunities to fresher candidates is also important, because that's how they will grow, that's how they will learn. Yeah.
So like
So that is one. Sorry, that is one. Also, we are hiring for front-end technologies. Few people who actually are very good with JavaScript, CSS, and actually, if they know React and Redux, then that's additionally cherry on the topping. Also, we are looking out for few interns. Couple of them are front-end side, and let's say 4 or 5 of them on back-end side.
okay.
Yeah,
So
so that's from tech side.
so you gave 2 points. The first one is the knowledge versus experience point, and second one was the passion for technology. So can you just
Yeah.
elaborate that knowledge versus experience part, like what you prefer and why?
So basically, definitely, if you ask me right now, experience matters, right? Because that's how uh, people learn. But personally, I actually, as much as I can, try to basically favor, kind of give, basically not favor, but give opportunities to freshers, right? Because so when actually passed out, there was huge, actually freshers was not given that much opportunities. This is back in 2011, where actually the actual criteria for hiring from the big, because startups and everything was not that much common in India at that time. This big corporation was actually demanding like 1 year, 2 year, this thing, experience letters, right? Now, if they are demanding for each and every position, if they are demanding experience letter, where will freshers go? And because of that, actually, I've seen my close friends suffer a lot, and and that's why basically I actually prefer giving freshers opportunities. freshers opportunity, right? And also, actually, I think freshers have hunger in them, right? That excitement to work, that hunger to gain knowledge. That actually I like about freshers. So yeah, but actually, if you ask me, experience also matter, because for freshers, right, I'll have to invest my own team's bandwidth to train them, to mentor them, to get it to a level where actually they will go on autopilot mode, right? But with basically with experience, they are already there. So both of them have their own pros and cons.
So you
Yeah.
talked about experience, right? So
Hmm.
many students are like a bit confused about let's say somebody is working on, let's say, React for engineering from, let's say, third year, and he's in the last.
Hmm.
So somehow he has worked for 2 years on React, right? Now he comes
Right.
to company and works in company for 2 years. So how those 2 years which he worked while he was in the college, and those 2 years when he worked in the company, so how
Hmm.
different are those two?
Yeah, actually, it's very difficult, and I actually see this in people because so passion wise, and let's say coding wise, it's almost same. But let's say, for example, or maybe more in let's say passion wise, it's more in freshers, right? Because they're very passionate about building something. They are fresh. Like हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना, वैसे गरम खून होता है. So they are actually basically very passionate to keep on coding, build something, put it on production. They like seeing people using their products, right? So that's actually good there. But the only thing with, let's say, the freshers or maybe students coming right out of college, few things, right? For example, let's say variable name. So in companies, right, variable name has to be meaningful, and those kind of things actually college students take some time to pick up when they start doing job. Because for so even when I was a fresher, my variable name like ABCD or something like that, right? Because at the end, what college people, when I was in college, actually what I used to think is um, the business logic and working of that code matters, the result output matters, right? Variable name and everything is kind of non-useful or maybe not that important. But let's say when you come to industry, right, when you come to uh, corporates and startups and everything, the one thing actually takes time for, let's say, college students to learn is it's not only your code, right? Because in college maybe we like either that core personal piece of code is used for your personal project or something, or maybe it can be a collaborative for a like 4 or 5 people team, right? Where variable names can be as trivial as possible. But when you go to startups, when you go to companies, that code will last for a long time. And if someone in future wants to edit that, they need to know what that variable does. If I give something variable name like temp or something, it's they will not understand. They'll have to basically go through that code, understand it. It's time consuming, right? And when you go to startups and companies or maybe corporates, right, time is money. So the like maximum time you spend, it's affecting the revenue, right? So yeah, that's something it takes time to learn basically. But I think, yeah, people I think that's something college should start focusing on right now. Universities should start train people, make college student understand why something as trivial as variable name, why does it matter, why does it basically uh, what is the importance of giving a meaningful variable name or function names or maybe class name, right? Whatever that is. Yeah, so something like that. Indentation is another thing which I see people from, let's say, coming out of college. At least I used to not care about indentation as long as I know what my code is and it's like okay-ish indented. I can read it. It was okay for me. But let's say 4 space versus 2 space, tab versus spaces, those things as well matter when you come to companies. Yeah.
So like my question to you is like, so is there any way these students can learn these things in college? Because the problem is that right now the competition is so high that like basic stuff everybody knows. So for example, if
Yeah.
I'm a company and I want to hire someone, there are, let's say, 10 people, there will be at least one who knows this stuff. So I'll hire him.
Hmm.
and I can give away like those 9 students from the one college because I already have 100 students from other colleges. So it's just like
Right.
those students have a bare minimum knowledge, they're just missing on that small point, like
Sure.
practical experience. So how these people can get that small practical experience that is required for companies to hire them?
Yeah, I think things are getting better than it was in past, right? So actually, students are more interested in doing internships from college, right? So they actually start to basically learn before they actually join full time. So that's one of the thing which is going very well right now. Secondly, basically, what we can have is maybe some tech experts, right, across the, let's say, startups, across companies can actually colleges can invite this kind of people who are basically tech experts, business experts, right, and maybe have explain this kind of things to students so that they will actually start, because see, I think the only thing which is missing is students don't know this kind of things, right, why it matters. If they know, I'm sure they are basically yeah, what can you say, basically they are mature enough to understand and implement those, right. I think it's just conveying that message to those students. If that is done, I think most of this, at least maximum of these issues, can be resolved right there. Yeah, so I think if you ask me, that's one of the things that colleges can start doing is maybe invite 1 hour session or something, and maybe, let's say, just around like what are the best practices students need to follow in, let's say, anywhere in the business world, right. So that can be one session. There are like 100 different sessions, what kind of algorithms, right, because I think what colleges still are doing are mostly focusing on trees, graphs, those kind of algorithms, which I'm not sure how many companies do use. There are use cases, but mostly are kind of resolved or maybe designed and architected by senior folks, right. So the freshers which come in as a junior, as an intern, may or may not know them. If they know, well and good. Everyone should know everything, that's for sure. But let's say instead of focusing there, you actually focus on how to actually the important algorithms that you will use on day-to-day basis, right, how to write optimized codes, how to basically make sure to write unit tests, right, those kind of things. So if you focus on those kind of things, very basic at a college level, I'm sure once you go into the corporate world, people will mentor you and teach you uh, right there, right then, right, whenever required. But yeah, I think sessions and everything should be good enough to basically get students uh, up to that level where they are eligible to work, or maybe they don't need as much mentoring as they need right now.
So like day-to-day coding, you need all these things. Okay, that's the one thing. The next one thing is that you touched upon the data structure part. So this is a very debating issue. The like this debate goes on the LinkedIn all the time, that whether should you focus on data structure or some other thing. So one point somebody wrote in the favor of data structure is that companies want to test whether the incoming student has enough aptitude or not. So it's basically for
Okay.
that. Yeah, so many people say na, that we don't use these things every day. So their point is that yes, we do not use it every day, but we just want to make sure that the person who is incoming is not dumb. That's their way of testing it. So it
No, actually, I missed the point actually.
uh,
Can you repeat the question? I missed the point what you were trying to convey.
yeah. So basically, we just talked upon the importance of data structure, right? You said
Right,
that
right.
instead of focusing on something that we everyday need, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people who are in the favor of focusing on data structure, they say the reason we ask questions on data structure in interviews is because we have to make sure that the incoming person is not dumb. So it's just our way of
Yeah,
testing.
data structure is needed, absolutely needed, because I think without data structure, no code can work, right. So if we don't know like basic data structures, I think coding is kind of irrelevant then. So data structure is absolutely necessary. Algorithms are necessary, right? But basically, what right now I see happening is candidates basically focus on algorithms and data structure, which are actually not mandatory or not needed at that level. So I'm not sure how many companies right now give tree kind of architecture, tree kind of data structure, or maybe graph to someone who has just joined their organization, right? Basically, if you are a junior, you start with very basic things in any company. So you have your induction project, which is kind of isolated from your main product, right? Or maybe if even if it's on the product right now, related to your product, but it's not that important, or it's not committed to any client or something. So you start working on very basic stuff when you join any company, right? And from there basically you keep on working. Then you will basically start working on certain feature or maybe a certain bug fix initially, and after that basically then you basically get that level where you were actually owning something, right? uh, so personally, and this might be controversial, right? Many people might think that I'm wrong, but personally, if you ask me, I think instead of focusing on very complicated data structures and very complicated algorithms, which not every student should know, or which students might not work when they actually go and join any company or an organization, I think you can skip that part. And actually the problem is not from actually student side, right? So the corporate startups and everything actually keep on bombarding, let's say, any graph problem or tree problem for any freshers,
Yeah, I think that is
which I
these students need the job, and somehow they know that these
yeah.
applications are going to get asked. So why bother learning about the other things?
I think the whole interview process right now needs to be fixed. At least that's from my opinion, which I'm seeing in industry, right? So, and again, this might be controversial, and lots of people might not agree with me. But yeah, I think the interview process is kind of crooked and broken right now, where you keep on. So a if you go to any big organization, right? Maybe MNCs and everything, they will ask you certain retta questions, right? Like, for example, tell me this algorithm, tell me heap sort or whatever, right? I'm not sure if they're using that in any of their products or any of the services which they are delivering. Even in startups, basically, as I told, right, you start with very basic stuff initially, and then as the time goes, you keep on basically evolving in that startup. Yeah, so I think this whole industry interview process needs to be fixed, because we are basically bombarding students with something which is kind of not required at that age or that level of maturity, right? Maybe sure they, and I think the hunger that students have, right, they're not going to stop anytime soon. Once they get a job, they'll keep on learning, they'll keep on evolving on themselves as well. Yeah, so I think that needs to be fixed right now. So if you ask me, right, and if I'm taking an interview, I generally don't ask any theoretical questions. For example, tell me heap sort or tell me merge sort or those kind of things, right? Or even data structures, I am not that into, because I think those are the things which get covered in your coding test or maybe first round, initial rounds, right? So the thing which I am interested is knowing, like, are you able to think out of the box, right? For example, let's say if I'm using WhatsApp right now, right, maybe I will give them like, okay, let's do one thing. We'll start building WhatsApp on our own. So if that problem I'm giving to you, right, okay, let's say, okay, let's build WhatsApp. So let's say if you are a CTO or you are the sole developer who is building WhatsApp, how will you start, right? So what I'm interested is given a problem which is not in their comfort zone, right? Because if I ask you any sort, any search algorithms or anything else, right, you might have been basically interviewed on those at, let's say, multiple companies, right? Or maybe you might have studied it on Geeks for Geeks or something like that. So if I ask you or throw a question at you which is kind of outside your comfort zone, what is your reaction? I'm not expecting a right answer. or maybe right architecture, right coding technologies, whatever. All I'm interested or I'm checking is, if thrown a question or thrown a problem at you which is out of your comfort zone, how do you react, right? How do you basically start thinking about those problems? Are you able to come up with, let's say, solution, and that solution might not be correct or accurate, but are you able to at least come up with any solution? And let's say if I keep on basically giving you more and more problems on that solution, are you able to find multiple solution on that? Let's say, for example, if you give me a solution, I'll contradict that, like, if you do it with this way, this might be the few issues that you will face. So is he thinking in that direction, or was that thought in his head? Or maybe if that is the problem, he able to find another solution? And how much do I have to push him to get actually near correct solution, right? Or near correct answer? So that's what I keep on looking. So basically, if you ask me, what I'm actually judging is, if he's a fresher, I'm judging is how much do I have to mentor that person, right? For example, if he's a fresher, and let's say if I have to mentor him for 2 or 3 months, right? So I won't be mentoring him, only mentoring. I'll be giving him problems, right? But for 2 3 months, if he's not able to work at his maximum capacity, right, 100%, whatever he is able to, right? Then basically it's a additional charge for me, right? Additional cost for me, because I have to then deploy my best developers who can actually solve my revenue problems or business problems. I have to deploy them to mentor these people, right? So the shorter the period, the more he's likely to get a offer letter, right? So let's say if someone, I'm questioning, if he can actually learn and basically start working within a month, great, he will get offer letter that day. But let's say if I think that maybe I'll have to push him a lot, because he was not able to come up with any solutions, right? I'm not looking for a correct solution, but at least any problem solutions, anything he's able to come up with anything. Or maybe if I'm cross questioning him, is he getting aggressive? Because there are people, right, if I start crossing them, they will get aggressive, because most of the people think like their solution is better, right? So basically that's again a red flag. So with this kind of interview, basically, A, you check your technical skills. B, you check if given a problem, are you able to come up with solution, right? Obviously no one is expecting you to come up with solution, because there are senior folks who will help you on these things, right, once you join any organization. But you should not be only dependent on seniors. You should basically do your groundwork. So that's something that we check. Third is basically, if given a problem which is outside your comfort zone, how is your reaction, right? Because if you join a startup, at least I can promise you that you won't get any problem which is very similar to each other, right? Day one you will be working on something, day 5 you will be working on a complete different thing, right? So the problem statement, so there is no time to get into a comfort zone, uh, right? So are you able to sustain that? What is your reaction to that, right? So with technical skill, we also basically, at least I also, and we at online sales mostly, in last couple of round, we keep on basically um, thinking about this kind of traits, business behavior traits, right, which actually help us to sustain. So right now, if you check online sales, this thing, right, average age of a company, it's around 5 to 6 years. So people who join online sales at least stay for 5 to 6 years in that company, because we hire only smart people. We basically do our groundwork and make sure that these kind of things are already in place. B, once you basically start working with very smart people, right, it's kind of addiction. Basically you need to basically get more and more smarter problems to work upon. Yeah, so that's something basically makes a great team, and that's something I think colleges can start focusing on.
So there are like 2 3 points that I can think of. The first one is that we talked about the interview process of the companies. So what I personally think is there are like two extremes. There are one end we have MNCs who just ask the boilerplate theoretical questions like tell me this algorithm, tell me that algorithm. And there are some startups who go to so extreme that just talk about data structure, don't talk about anything else, just talk about data structure. So it has to be something in the middle. And
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah, it's completely broken right now, at least from my
and
point of view.
second, about the data structure point, I agree with your point, because what I think is the job of an engineer is to solve the problem. Data structure and all,
Yeah,
it's just the tools. So those will
yeah,
depend upon your problem.
yeah,
So let's say you are very good data structure guy, and tomorrow let's say there is no one in the office and you have to fix the HTML CSS bug. You cannot say, okay, I know data structure, I can't do that. But if you have a problem solving skill, you will figure out a way how to do that. So I think
yeah.
main skill that you must have is about problem solving, not learning data structure.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. So problem statement, problem solving is the most critical part, at least for startups I can talk about, right? That is more critical part. But at the same time, basic data structures and basic algorithm you should know, because even if, for example, you are the best problem solver in the world, right? And if you don't know data structures, no one in startup is going to teach you data structures from scratch, right? Or any algorithm for that matter. Yeah, so basically it has to go hand in hand, but there has to be certain threshold for both, right? At least you should know this much data structures and algorithms and this much problem solving you should know. I think if that balance is maintained, right, I think you can get job anywhere.
Yeah, so basically, yes, you are a problem solver, but you need to know basic about your tool that you're going to use. So you
Right.
use
Yeah.
wrong place.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, exactly.
let's come back to that comfort zone thing. So
Hmm.
basically, when I was in college, I used to work on various projects which I used to make up on my mind. Let's build this, and I used to build
Hmm.
that. So what that
Hmm.
decided me that like told educated me upon is that how to deal with something that you don't know. Like when you are
Hmm.
learning in colleges, we have a fixed assignment: implement this sort, implement that sort. But when you actually build
Right.
something, there are problems which are just unknown. Sometimes you don't even find answers on Google. So my
Hmm.
that basically thrown me out of my comfort zone for learning at the time when I was doing engineering. So my basic philosophy was learning while doing something. So what is your take on
Right.
learning while doing something?
So earn and learn is definitely a good thing. Learning while doing something is definitely good. So I'm very pro that. Uh, uh, Basically, I think practical knowledge, right? So you can read all the books you want. You can read Google. You can basically, if you go on Google, I think you'll get all sides of blogs, all sides of ebooks, everything, right? But at the end, basically, whatever you're reading, if you're not implementing it, I think that knowledge will be lost within 6 months. So, for example, if you're reading a book right now, let's say on JavaScript or maybe on Java or any of the technologies, right? For example, Storm or something. Uh, so while reading a book, you basically get to know that, yeah, I have understood how it works. But for example, if you, so giving a normal example, right? For example, if you're working in, let's say if you're learning Storm, okay, and if you're reading a book, you basically will find, okay, I know about this technology. But if I ask you, like, go and install that Storm on servers, it will be a huge task. It will take days, basically, no, if not weeks, right? For you to basically go and install it. So yeah, practical knowledge, installing things on your own, doing things on your own, definitely gives you that competitive edge when you come to industry, right? Because you have already seen problems, you have learned so much by solving those problems. I think it definitely will give you a competitive edge. Because at the end, basically, why people join startup is basically you can get promoted as soon as possible, right? Because time is money. If you're hardworking and if you have a good knowledge, I think you can grow as much as you want there.
Do you think it's because many people don't actually know what their job will be once they join a company? Because when people learn coding in colleges, they think that once they go to any job, their job will be to write just that 10 lines of code, but it's not actually that, right? You have to debug it, test it. If you are just a second level like engineer, to deploy it, then watch for the production. Maybe they just don't know what actual job is. So,
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, sorry, continue.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So basically, I was saying, definitely, I agree. So doing just one particular thing, right, puts lots of constraint on you. Um, so what actually we also in online sales also do is we don't hire any QAs or something right now. At least right now we don't have any QAs, right? So from intern to, let's say, a software architect, everyone has to do everything. So if you're building a feature, you will have to write the tech spec for that particular feature. You'll have to get it reviewed from at least your buddy and then from, let's say, your tech lead, right? Once that is done, you'll have to code the same piece. You will have to test it yourself. You'll have to write unit test for that. You'll have to do integration test for that, and you will have to deploy it, and you will have to monitor it. And if there are any issues, there are any tickets that are coming from that particular feature, you own it and solve it. So at the end, you learn from A to Z in a same feature, right? You get to know how it's built. Not that we are against QA or something, but I think if we start doing that, if you start basically working initially in this kind of sequence, right, you also get to know like what kind of bugs, what kind of issues I will face, what kind of while deploying or before deployment, what kind of things I have to basically verify, what kind of things I have to basically cross check, so that once the deployment is done, system is stable, right? So from A to Z, you will get to know everything.
right. So in terms of like that learning one thing, so when I take lectures in college right now, so when I ask students about do you have any question, there are only 4 to 5 people who are actually excited, and most of the time their questions are like the same thing, that I want to be a Java developer, what should I do, or I want to be a Python developer.
Okay. Got it. Oh, your question was from that angle, that
This is my new question.
technology wise you are talking.
Actually, this is my new question. That's what I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Sorry,
what?
continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is most of the time these students ask me questions like this, that I want to be a Java developer, or I want to be a Python developer, or I want to be a MERN stack developer, this kind of thing. So I gave
Mm,
my answers on my own at that point. But what
mm.
your take on it? Should students, when they are in the last year, should go for a Python development course or Java, like focusing on one single career thing?
Yeah. So basically, I would suggest strongly against it. Like focus on one particular um, language or one kind particular technology, and because basically college student haven't even started seeing industry yet, right? How can you decide if, let's say, Java is right now, how is it used, or is it even important right now in industry, right? And even if it is important, you are constraining yourself in and around that particular technology only, right? And at some point, basically each and every technology is going to get deprecated. So uh, so I think if you stick to that, you will basically have a very hard time switching from, let's say, Java at some point to, let's say, a new language or new technology, which basically will come after 5 or 6 or 10 years. Because career is basically lifelong, right? For example, from age of 20, 24, 25 till, let's say, 40, 45. So if you stick only that I want to only do coding, or I want to only basically work on Java, at some point even you will get bored, first of all. And even if you don't get bored, that technology is going to get replaced by some other technology. So for example, if you I think most of the people might have heard about, let's say, backbone.js, or maybe those kind of frameworks which were very famous at one point, ember.js, right? Very famous technologies back in 2000, I think 12, 13. Right now, I don't know many companies who are using this. Everyone has switched to Vue.js, React.js. Few of are using Angular, right? Yeah, basically every technology will get replaced at some point, and at that moment you will basically see that you are limiting yourself. So actually, I'll give you my example, right? So when I was in college, I passed out, by the way, in 2011. Back in 2011, basically the only technology that was taught in colleges were C, C++. Only those are the languages that and maybe some MySQL part, right? But when I joined, let's say Socrates Technologies at that moment, which is basically a parent company or sister sibling company of online sales. So if you can say it's the same company. So when I joined back in 2012, I was told that, okay, you will be working on Ruby on Rails. And I didn't even know what Ruby on Rails was at that time. I was given a book on first day that this, okay, so I told, like, I don't know about Ruby on Rails, so what should I do now? So they were, don't worry, we are there, we will help you out. My mentor actually gave me a book of PDF, which was around like about 200 pages or. He said, start reading. There are good problems out there. Open IRB terminal and start working on it. Okay. So I started working on it. Day one passed, day two passed, day three passed. So on day two, he came to me and said, dude, you're only reading. You're not executing anything. Okay. So I started coding as well, side by side. So whatever small problems they were giving, I started working on it. So in 3-4 days, actually, I completed most of the book. And I was given an induction project that this is your project. Write a tech spec, start coding. You have, let's say, 3 weeks of time to write a tech spec, implement that, test it, code it, and then deploy it as well. Okay, so yeah, so that was a huge learning that the technologies which are taught in colleges or which you think you will be working might not be relevant in industry, right? Or when whatever company you join, they might not be using that technology, but that doesn't mean that company is not good. So you might grow in a certain company because of technology you might not know, right? So yeah, so that was my personal example, and we don't use Ruby on Rails anymore, but yeah, at that time Ruby on Rails was actually also used, which actually got replaced after that by Django, and let's say now I don't think anyone uses any of those.
So basically, we are back to square one. Is that your problem solving capability is more important than the language that you use? And,
Yeah, so languages and everything, those are kind of very trivial things, right? And you can learn them while you join any industry, right? Or those people in industry will teach you those languages or those kind of technologies when you join. So I think you should focus on fundamentals first, right? Basic data structure, basic algorithms, basic problem solving skills are the must.
so I used to give those people answers based on their career only, that you are limiting yourself. But this is a very good point that you made, that you are limiting yourself. That is one thing, but the technology itself can go extinct because the speed of the technology is so rapid nowadays. Every day a new JavaScript framework comes. So with the speed of the technology, the technology that you are interested in, that itself might go extinct in some years.
Yeah, and basically what also happens is there is no perfect technology or no perfect language out there, right? So for every problem or every product or every feature that you are building, you might have to use different technology or different languages. For example, if you're writing a service which is just a DB service, right? Just IO kind of operation, you might go and use Node.js. But let's say if there is a processing involved or something like that, you might have to work on something like Java, uh, right? So even if you know either of those, you will have to learn one additional language. Yeah.
So like let's bring back discussion with the college stuff. So basically many like right now whenever you see discussion about the difference between the college education and the what is required in the industry, many people say that the college students are not aware with the latest technology, which is like AI, NLP, ML, these kind of things. So what has happened is, I don't know, I personally don't like this, that many colleges have started lectures or projects or subjects related to AI, ML, NLP directly. So if you open any student resume, they have projects directly on ML, NLP, and these kind of things. And if you just ask the student just to reverse the array, he's not able to do it. So I understand that you should be familiar with new technologies, but new technology doesn't mean AI, ML, NLP directly.
So you're right in pointing that out, right? So even we are hiring right now, we are hiring lots of freshers as well as experienced people, and we see this kind of resumes coming in, right, where they are writing like, I know AI, I have worked on ML and everything, right? And I'm not sure about that, but yeah, so like you said, they don't know about how to reverse that algorithm, right? Yeah, so like I said, you have to focus on fundamentals, you have to focus on basic data structure, basic problem solving skills, basic algorithms. Once that is done, I think these are like higher technologies and everything can be learned later. But once you get confident to this kind of things, then you can go for that definitely, but that's optional is what I can say. Because, and second thing also, what I have realized recently, right, while taking interviews, most of the people are using inbuilt language functions, right? For example, there might be reverse as a inbuilt function in like multiple languages. If I are basically while doing coding, right, or programming, you will directly use reverse. So that is actually causing a certain amount of problem, right? Where basically if I throw a problem like do a reverse of this kind of array, they will have to think. Basically it's a very simple, again it's a problem solving, right? You doesn't have to label it as an array reversal or something like that. But because of this inbuilt functions, basically basic problem solving, what people are right now doing is basically solving like harder problem, right? And in basically while doing that, most of the people basically start thinking, oh, this is very tough, cracking job will be very harder, right? Because they are directly dealing with the tougher and harder problem, which ideally they can, but there is a time when you can solve those problems. You have to basically start with array reversal without using reverse function. And step by step you will reach there, but if you directly go there, everything will look harder at that moment.
Yeah. So actually, I posted a video on the internet as well on Instagram. It's a podcast of Lex Friedman, of one of the founders of JavaScript. Founders of C++, and he asked him, "What do you think? What is the current problem with coding?" So he was so angry about libraries. He said the problem with current generation of coders. He's actually the founder of Unix. He's the co-founder.
Yeah.
So he said the problem with current generation of coders is that whenever they see a problem statement, they go on internet and go this npm. They just install
Yeah.
it, and a bunch of
Yeah.
downloaded, and they come done with their problem statement. So the problem is not just inbuilt function. The problem is just there are so many libraries out there, and most of the languages are
Definitely.
JavaScript and Python. So pip this or npm this, and just everything is thrown.
Yeah.
So they don't have to use their brain.
Yeah, and so yeah, definitely, I agree with you. Like the NPM and PIP has spoiled people right now in colleges, right? Also, second thing is what I feel is Stack Overflow is another thing, right? So if
Yes,
you're
biggest
basically
culprit.
working on yeah, if you're working on something while solving problem, you'll think about it for a couple of minutes, and maybe you'll get frustrated and go on. Let's say Google type something, Stack Overflow is up for disposal, right? You'll go see the problem, you'll copy paste, and things actually work by copy pasting from Stack Overflow. So I think this problem solving capability or that thinking capacity might decrease because of this kind of problems, because students are not focusing on actually solving that problem, but rather basically getting an easy options via libraries, via Stack Overflow. And I'm not saying you should not use it, but at least try your 110% before using this kind of thing.
So
Because
they
if you do that, right, it's basically what I believe is like everyone, like our ancestor used to say, right, practice is the only key to success. If you keep on practicing coding, every problem you get, you keep on practicing it, right? You might not get answer in, let's say, 5 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour. But let's say if you can try for that five, and if you have time, basically, if you can try those problems to code for, let's say, certain amount of time, if you are not able to, then you can take certain help. But what generation right now is doing is directly going on Stack Overflow or maybe, and all kind of libraries are available, right? Even for JavaScript, Node.js, npm is there, you have pip and everything. Yeah, so I think that's where basically the quality of coder goes down, because you never practiced code, you directly use libraries and uh, Stack Overflows.
It's like it's the same thing that actually study happened that people cannot remember numbers now. Like before phone, before mobile, everybody used to remember their friends phone numbers or relatives phone numbers. Now they just don't have to. So that
Yeah,
ability of human brain is decreasing day by day.
yeah. Basically, I used to remember lots of mobile numbers, at least from my family members and few best friends, right? Right now, I don't even remember mobile number of my mother or father. Yeah, and I had this kind of incidents where I was stuck somewhere in rain and there was no network around, and my mobile was, I think, out of battery or something, and I was not able to call anyone because there was no mobile connectivity, no mobile charger there. There was landline I could have used, or maybe I could have borrowed someone's mobile from any cafes or anything. But for that, I didn't actually remember anyone's number. Yeah, so I think that's something very similar problem, and we are actually losing out on our human
So like
mind, I think, because
situation
yeah.
happened like when India banned those Chinese apps. So there was a meme going around that thank God Stack Overflow is not Chinese.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, lots of developer might have resigned right there because the entire, I think, coding right now, if you're a developer, you can't go through that job, because at least when I start working, right, as a developer, I used to basically have this kind of timeline. Like I used to set a goal for myself. So, okay, this is the problem. I'll give 2 hours for this. If not, I'll basically start using Stack Overflow. And if at that time I was not, if Stack Overflow was not available, then I was like, yeah, maybe I would have gotten a very harsh lectures.
So this copy pasting thing is so bad that our company when I used to work in Sabarati, they went to a
Mm,
college for campus placement, and they
mm,
have a problem statement. It was a data structure problem statement. So can implement in any language, Node, Python,
mm,
Java. It's your choice. And what they did was half the class implemented in one language, which is Python. That too also, if you
mm.
copy paste the answer in Google, the first link that comes, it is for Geek for Geeks. So we told everyone, all our people who are checking the answers, just Google the first line of code and see if you can find the thing. And everybody copy pasted from one website, Geek for Geeks. So
Yeah,
it's hampering their knowledge. It's reducing their image as well of colleges when their students are just
yeah,
copy pasting everything.
yeah. I think my only humble request to all the students out there, right? And kind of, I'm also a student right now. I'm also learning many things right now. So it's not that I am grown and matured at certain level, but I would like to actually request people is like, hard work is a key, guys. You have to work hard. Don't go for this kind of shortcuts, because it will basically kind of, it may ruin your career in long run. Yeah.
So, and the one last thing that I want to ask about is since we are discussing on the libraries part, the framework
Hmm.
part. So right now in colleges, students are also very obsessed with frameworks like
Yeah.
React and Vue, and so if it's a backend, then
Right.
Django and something like that. So
Yeah.
I know you already gave the answer, but this I just want, because people think that they will get job on the basis of that they are a React developer or
Yeah.
Vue.js
Yeah.
developer.
So yeah, I think that's not the case. So basically, even if you can impress some company or startup with adding that react.js as a keyword, maybe on like job portals, or maybe adding it in your resume, might get you with the first interview, might get you the first interview. But the first interview actually starts with JavaScript basics, right? So at least in my online sales, I can guarantee you that no one will ask you anything about react.js unless and until you have added it in your resume, right? We basically focus on the basics, that we'll start questions from JavaScript and very basic JavaScript, and we'll basically drill you on JavaScript only. And let's say if any let's say react.js or redux is added, we ask few questions around those, because we need to know if you're lying or you really know react or redux. That can give you a certain edge uh, at, let's say, third or fourth interview. But if you don't know JavaScript and if you know React only, you are basically not going from first to second interview. Yeah, you will basically get rejected at first interview itself. And first interview, by the way, is like 15 minutes interview at online sales, where we actually check if you are actually eligible for 1 hour interview. So you'll get rejected right there in 15-minute interview. So don't focus on frameworks, focus on basic JavaScript. Once you get to know that, okay, JavaScript I know and I can actually know the basics and fundamentals and everything, then you might actually start experimenting with, let's say, react.js or angular.js or whatever technology you feel you are interested into. That's when you actually can start exploring that, because if you also know React, that is another edge that you can get against other candidates, right? But yeah, so basic, and that edge you will get only at, let's say, last or second last interview. But to get to last and second last interview, you need to know JavaScript very well. And that's only for, let's say, since you asked for, let's say, React and Vue.js and everything, but same thing applies to your backend as well.
So I'll give you my personal example. So when I used to take interview in Sokrati, so there was a guy who came for the front end development interview, and actually I asked him the same question which was asked for me in my interview when I gave the interview.
Okay.
So my interview was taken by Divanshu. So what
Okay.
he did was, the question he gave me was, he opened your website onlinesales.ai on the laptop, and he asked that, for example, there is a header on your website onlinesales.ai, a big name like this. So he asked me that if I click on this, I should get in the console clicked on and which element has been clicked. So I did that, and I passed the interview. So I remembered the question and I asked the same question to him. I opened your same website onlinesales.ai and I asked that guy, whenever I clicked on any element, just print out the element, whatever element has been clicked. So he paused for like 10 seconds and he said, I can do this in Angular. I was like, what? I'm not asking you to do it in anything. Just do it in plain JavaScript in the console. The soul was not familiar with the console itself. He didn't know how to write code in the console. So I was so baffled by this, and I asked him repeatedly, this is the basic one. Forget about that. Just click. He was like, I can do this in Angular. I was like, nahi bhai, Angular mein nahi karna hai.
I think again, this is a big disconnect between your universities, colleges, and industry, right? Because somehow, and this is true for a long time, right? So somehow students have got this flavor that if I know this, I'll get this job. If I know this, I'll get this job. And the only solution to that is maybe this kind of podcast where, and maybe you can arrange some sessions, right? And colleges can basically arrange some sessions with tech leaders in industry, right? And I think even Pune right now, Mumbai, any metro you take, there are lots of, even tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? Lots of good startups coming from those as well. So you can just invite those kind of people. People are happy to help, right? With this ecosystem, because also they need good students for their company. So they will have to help your colleges to basically get good talent from your company as well. So I think this kind of sessions, this kind of interactions between students and industry, if that happens, right, I think these problems will automatically go away. Right now, there is the disconnect is what I feel personally.
So actually, this is pretty ironic that the whole part, like the reason people have started these engineering colleges is to give people jobs. Their whole selling point is that they don't emphasize on that our quality of education is so high. Their only emphasis that X number of people get placed from our college. So this is ironic that the only one thing that is required for a student to get placed, they are not doing that one thing.
Because so I think colleges and universities are still very traditional, working very traditionally, right? Like, let's say universities will recommend some syllabus, they will appoint, they'll suggest or recommend few books. Colleges will start teaching that. There will be no practical also, I feel, at least at my generation, right? When we were in college, uh, there were like 15, 20, 25 programs that you will be taught in practicals, and those were the only programs that you will get in exams. So for me, I think, at least I used to think at that, like, this is so stupid. Like, once I know any problem, you're asking me about same problem. Like, if you're basically giving me coding practice, right, at least ask some different problem and then evaluate me on that, right? The people I know, few people who used to mug up those programs at the end, like semicolon kahan pe aana chahiye, at that level, right? That knowledge is no use in industry, right?
Forget about that.
But yeah, college.
I have seen people writing code on paper.
Yeah.
I'm like, what stupid is this?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think the colleges are still going very traditional way. I think they need to evolve so that students actually, our future unicorns and everything will come from students who are learning in our colleges, right? Um, Unicorns are getting there, or maybe industries creating so many unicorns because they learn something after they get into industry, or maybe some students are so bright that side by side they don't basically keep on learning few things. That's where you get good talent right now. But with the traditional learning, I think we should definitely, as a country, as a whole country, we should work on this kind of things.
So it's 11:15 now. So this was a very fun discussion. So we'll
Same here. I loved it, dude.
Yeah. So we'll try to do this again afterwards some point, because there are still some issues that we can discuss on. So we'll try to do this again.
Definitely.
Thanks for giving the time.
Thanks, Ganesh. Bye bye.
Bye bye.